Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The morning sun slowly rose over Los Angeles, casting warm gold across the expansive grounds of the Forrester estate. The bridal arch stood elegantly near the garden's edge, wrapped in white orchids and soft foliage, shining in the early morning light like something out of a dream. It should have been an ideal day. It should have been pleasant, happy, and uncomplicated. But nothing in Liam and Hope's lives had ever been straightforward, and today, fate appeared to be humming beneath the surface, restless, shifting, and ready to strike. Inside the home, Hope stood in front of a tall mirror encased with beautiful crystal. Her ivory Forrester Creations gown delicately embraced her figure, the smooth silk dropping like water with each breath she took. Her mirror, however, revealed more than bridal beauty, tension, doubt, and the kind of anxiety that a woman feels when her history refuses to be buried. She raised a quivering palm to her cheek, wiping away a tear she thought she had managed to conceal. Brooke stood behind her, fixing the final elements of the veil, watching her daughter with a mix of hope and concern. "You look breathtaking," Brooke whispered softly, but Hope did not smile. She continued peering into her own eyes, as if looking for something she couldn't identify. "Honey, if something feels off, you can tell me." Hope shook her head. "It's only nerves. We have been here before, Mom. It seems like whenever Liam and I resolve to commit, something goes wrong. What if this time isn't different?" Brooke placed her hands on Hope's shoulders. "Because this time, you are stronger. This time, you're choosing each other for the right reasons." But Hope couldn't escape the feeling that today was different, and not in a good way. Across the lawn, Liam stood with Ridge and Carter, buttoning his jacket with half his customary attention. His smile was strained and did not reach his eyes. Ridge noticed right away. "Any second thoughts?" Ridge inquired in his customary forthright tone. "No," Liam replied, but his tone was too rapid and forceful. "It's just life stuff. Complicated." Carter laughed. "Liam, this wedding is almost like a ritual at this point. You should obtain frequent flight points." Liam mustered a tiny chuckle, but strain remained on his brow. The reality was simple. He adored Hope, but the ghosts of their past, Steffi, treachery, and heartbreak, remained at the back of his mind. And as much as he wanted a new beginning, something inside him refused to settle down. Liam had no idea that another storm was on its way. Its epicenter was Wyatt. Wyatt had been pacing the corridor of Spencer Publications all morning, his hands running through his hair, sweat accumulating at his temples despite the room's cold temperature. He realized he couldn't escape it any longer. He couldn't hide the truth from Liam, Hope, or the child at the center of it all. The weight of his secret had become oppressive, and now, of all days, he felt compelled to act. He drove directly to the Forrester estate, not aware of the traffic or his own breathing. The entire world felt like it was constricting around him. He practiced his words 100 times, but none of them felt natural. How can you tell your brother that the child he loved, whose absence had wrecked him, isn't really gone? How can you admit that you've concealed something so huge from him for so long? When he arrived, his heart was racing so hard that it felt like it was about to burst. Guests were gathering. Everyone looked perfect, cheerful, bright, and unaware. The Forrester garden was alive with chatter. Katie noticed him first and waved enthusiastically, but as she saw his look, her grin vanished. "Wyatt, are you okay?" He did not respond. He kept advancing, heading right for the main corridor, where Ridge had mentioned Liam was prepping. Hope, upstairs, was finally ready. She took a deep breath and silently prayed that this time, love would finally hold. Brooke kissed her face, brushing away one last tear, and they walked towards the garden. Liam walked down the aisle as Carter cued the music. Soft piano sounds wafted across the air. But then, a voice broke through the silence. "Liam, wait." Everybody turned. Wyatt came into view, out of breath, with a panicked expression on his face. His clothing was crumpled, and his hands shook. The music faltered, and whispers spread throughout the throng. Liam frowned. Wyatt? What are you doing now?
Are you?
We need to talk, Wyatt said. Right now. Hope froze in mid-step. Brooke touched her arm. Ridge narrowed his gaze. Bill Spencer, who was adjusting his cufflinks, tensed. This can't wait, Wyatt exclaimed, his voice cracking. I tried 100 different ways to manage this and I tried to keep out of it, but I couldn't. Not today. Not when you're about to make this commitment without knowing the truth. Liam took a step forward. His jaw tightened. Wyatt, you are scaring people. What's happening? Wyatt swallowed hard. It's about the baby. The silence became thick and oppressive. Hope is having difficulty breathing. Liam's heart almost stopped. Hope muttered, I thought we agreed to never. Wyatt shook his head.
No.
Not that baby, Wyatt replied. Another one. Everyone gazed, astounded and perplexed. Liam grimaced, his brow furrowed. Wyatt, what are you talking about? Wyatt raked his hand through his hair again, his voice breaking with the next sentence. He is living, Liam. And he's your son. The world appeared to tilt. Hope's bouquet slid between her fingers. Ridge swore under his breath. Brooke's cry was so loud that it resonated. Bill took a step forward, his eyes narrowing to slits. Liam didn't move, he couldn't. His brain stopped functioning. He lost his ability to breathe. Everything within him froze. Wyatt continued, his words flowing out in a frenzied rush. I found out several months ago. I didn't know how to tell you. I was afraid. I figured I could fix it or figure out who was responsible before you got wounded again. But I was mistaken. Hope grabbed her lips and shook furiously, unsure if her son was still alive. No, Wyatt, that is impossible. We were told. I understand what you were told, Wyatt responded. And it was a lie. Liam took a step back, as if physically struck. His speech was hardly audible. Where is he? Wyatt's eyes were filled with tears. In Sacramento. With a couple that believed they were adopting lawfully. They had no idea anything was wrong. His name is Evan. He's 3. And he looks just like you in the old Spencer family photos.
Hope sobbed.
Brooke held her up. Liam's world was dissolving and fragmenting. Images of the infant he had mourned flashed before him. Tiny hands, soft blankets, and the sadness that had nearly consumed him. And now, alive? Out there? Living among strangers?
Why?
Liam muttered, his voice harsh with agony. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Wyatt appeared devastated. Because I wasn't sure who to trust. Some individuals threatened me, claiming that if I spoke up, the baby would disappear permanently. I felt I could protect him by remaining silent. But as I learned more, I realized I was in over my head. And then today, watching you walk into another future you don't even know exists, I couldn't hold the secret any longer. Bill came closer, wrath vibrating in every line of his body. Who has threatened you? Wyatt shook his head. Not right now. Liam's legs nearly buckled as he realized his son needed him right now. He raised a hand to his forehead, tears welling up behind his eyes. Everything he had believed for years was a lie. He was not childless. He was not grieving the loss of a son. His child, his flesh and blood, was out there, waiting, living, and developing without him. Hope approached him carefully. Oh my God, Liam. Her voice broke. What does this mean for us? He stared at her with eyes full of grief, shame, love, and confusion, every feeling a man could possibly feel. I'm not sure what I'm hoping for. I cannot think about us right now. My son is still alive. The wedding guests stayed still, watching the entire day crumble like a house of cards. Wyatt cleaned his face. There is more. The adoption trail leads to a person we know. Someone who twisted everything. Someone who intended to use that child to dominate you. Liam felt a cold fear descend into his stomach.
Who?
Wyatt hesitated before whispering a name that sent shockwaves across the garden. Thomas. The response was immediate. Ridge shouted. Brooke cursed. Hope's knees gave up completely. Liam clenched his fists so fiercely that his knuckles became white. Wyatt added, Thomas did not take the baby directly, but he set up the contacts. He knew the truth some months before I did. He thought if you stayed damaged, if Hope stayed weak, he'd be able to have the family he'd always wanted. Hope screamed, raw, devastated, and enraged.
No.
No, he wouldn't, not after everything, but Wyatt nodded. He did. The wedding was officially ended. No vows. No rings. No kisses. Just heartbreak. Liam felt everything inside him burn, implode, and spiral. His whole life had changed in a single moment. I'm going to get him, he murmured quietly, but silence was more dangerous than shouting. I'm going to bring my son home. Hope reached for him. Liam, wait. Please, let's think. He took a step back. I can't think. I have to go. I need to find him. Bill went beside him, clutching his shoulder. And you won't do it alone. Wyatt agreed, but remorse still twisted his features. I'll help you with everything you need. I should have told you sooner. I'll spend the rest of my life making things right. Hope watched Liam walk away, her heart breaking with each step. She understood what this meant. She understood that this incident would forever alter their relationship. How can it not? A long-lost son, a series of lies, Thomas's betrayal, and a truth powerful enough to shatter their future. The garden was now silent, with abandoned flowers, astonished whispers, and the faint echo of Wyatt's confession. And far away, in a tranquil house in Sacramento, a little boy with lovely brown eyes and a Spencer smile played with blocks on the living room floor, ignorant that his actual father was finally coming for him and unconscious of the raging storm that was about to devastate everyone involved in his abduction. The day that was supposed to represent a new beginning for Liam and Hope had instead turned into something far more intricate, perilous, and life-changing than anything they had ever experienced. Nothing, love, loyalty, or even family would ever be the same again. The chapel smelled like lilies and candle wax, the kind of aroma that lingered on your clothes for hours after you left. Hope stood at the altar in a gown that had taken 3 fittings and 1 near breakdown to perfect, with lace so fine that it appeared to dissolve if anyone breathed too hard. Liam stood opposite her, gorgeous in the manner that made moms sigh and ex-girlfriends email at 2 a.m., his eyes beaming with the type of assurance he only ever had when he was about to marry Hope Logan. Again. The pastor had just reached the point at which everyone had been waiting for, when someone, somewhere, would finally object and provide the authors with another 6 months of material, when the big wooden doors at the back of the church crashed open so forcefully that the hinges screamed. Every head turned. Wyatt Spencer stood in the doorway, soaking from the rain that had begun the moment he'd parked his car crookedly across 2 places outside. His white shirt clung to him, as if he had drowned, and perhaps he had. His chest rose and fell too quickly, as if he'd ran the entire distance from wherever he'd been keeping the secret, which was now clawing its way out of his throat. Don't, he yelled, his voice echoing through the pews like a gunshot. Don't do it. Hope's bouquet slipped an inch between her suddenly numb fingers. Liam turned slowly, as people do in nightmares when they know what's coming but hope they're mistaken. Wyatt, Liam murmured, calm. Too calm, as if he were going to deliver a sermon about destiny, timing, and how everything would work out if everyone simply trusted him. This isn't the time. No, Wyatt said, but it wasn't a chuckle. It was the sound a man makes when the last part of him breaks. This is the exact time. This is the only time. He took a single step down the aisle, then another. The rain trickled from his hair and into the carpet, which cost more than most people's rent. Brooke's hand shot to her mouth. Ridge rose up and then sat down, as if he didn't know what to do. Steffi's eyes narrowed as she scented blood. Wyatt came to a halt halfway to the altar, near enough for Hope to see the crimson rims around his eyes, as well as the way his hands shook despite his efforts to remain calm. Liam, he whispered, his voice so low that the microphone missed it, but everyone heard it regardless. He's your son. The church fell silent. Not quiet.
Dead.
It was as if someone had sucked all of the air out, leaving just the echo of those 3 words hanging in the rafters. Hope's bouquet hit the ground. White roses spread like surrender. Liam did not move. Didn't blink. Just stared at his brother, as if Wyatt had started speaking in tongues. "What have you just said?" Liam inquired softly, almost gently. "I said," Wyatt repeated, louder this time, turning so the entire room could take in his demise, "Thomas is your son."
Not my.
"Not Ridge's. Yours." Hope let forth a strange squeak. Deacon Sharp began laughing somewhere in the back, as one would expect. Liam shook his head slowly, as if he could get the words out of his ears. "That's not possible." "It's not only feasible," Wyatt replied as he approached. "It occurred. That night. After the cabin. When you thought Hope was sleeping and you came to me, drunk and crying about how you'd lost her forever, how you couldn't breathe without her, how you'd do anything." "Stop." Liam's voice cracked like ice on a pond someone had trodden on. But Wyatt could not stop. Wouldn't. The dam had broken, causing everything behind it to flood. "You begged me, Liam. You begged me to help you feel something other than anguish. And I was sick of being the spare, the joke, the one nobody chose. So, when you kissed me," gasps echoed around the cathedral like a wave. Brooke actually gripped her pearls. Ridge appeared to be on the verge of having the heart attack that everyone had warned him about. "I kissed you back," Wyatt continued, his gaze fixed on Liam's, challenging him to deny it. "And it happened more than once. It was weeks, months. We told ourselves that it was mourning. We convinced ourselves it didn't mean anything. We told ourselves a lot of things." Hope was crying now, silent tears cutting through her makeup and spoiling the beauty the makeup artist had spent 2 hours crafting. "You lied to me," she muttered. "Both of you." Liam opened his mouth, then closed it. He had nothing kind to say about this. Wyatt looked to her, and the sorrow on his face was so raw that it was offensive to see. "I did not know about the baby, Hope. Not at first. When you informed me you were pregnant, I thought it might be mine. From before." "Since when?" He swallowed hard. "I wanted it to be mine."
God, I wanted it so badly.
"Because for once something would belong to me first. Not from St. Liam," he said, looking back at his brother. "But then Thomas began to look like you. The eyeballs. He smiles when he is going to get away with anything. And I knew, yet I allowed you to marry Bill's falsehoods. I led you to believe you were the hero raising another man's child. I let you have everything. Again." Liam took one step closer, then another, until they were so near that the congregation leaned forward, as if it were the season finale they had been waiting for. "You're lying," Liam responded, but not with conviction. "It was a prayer." "I wish I was," Wyatt muttered. "I wish I had the strength to tell you the truth years ago. But I was afraid. I am terrified of losing my brother. I'm terrified of what Dad will do. I was terrified of what it meant about me." He dug into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper from a doctor's office that changed people's lives. He held it out. "DNA test," he explained simply. "I had it done last month when Thomas fractured his arm, and they took blood. It is all there. 99.9%. Liam looked at the document as if it were a loaded rifle. Hope discovered her voice. "You both knew," she whispered, glancing between them, the betrayal as deep as any dagger. "You both knew there was a possibility, and you let me raise him thinking. I didn't know," Liam replied swiftly and frantically. "Wyatt, tell her." "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," Wyatt responded. "Because knowing would be admitting what we did. Admitting that, for once in your ideal existence, you were not the good guy. You were just as messed up as the rest of us." Steffi slowly rose up. "So, all this time," she exclaimed, voice dripping with anger, my nephew, is actually my brother-in-law's child with his own brother? This family truly excels in dysfunction." "Steffi," Ridge warned. "No, Dad, let her," Taylor whispered softly from the second row, reaching for her pocketbook as if she needed a Valium the size of a hockey puck. Hope took a step back from the altar and away from Liam. Her veil caught on the corner of a pew and torn, leaving a long jagged tear that sounded like her heart. "I loved you," she told Liam. "I defended you. I selected you over and over again. And the entire time, I didn't know, Liam said, but it sounded terrible even to him. Hope gazed at Wyatt. And you? You married me knowing. I married you because I loved you, Wyatt answered, with stark honesty. I still do. I always will, even when I despised myself for it. Thomas selected that moment to toddle down the aisle from where he'd been seated with the nanny, pudgy legs pounding and arms extended to his mother. He took 3 steps before stopping, his lower lip twitching, when he noticed the adults crying. Hope went to her knees and spread her arms. Thomas hurried toward them, burying his face in her neck, as if he could escape from the grown-up mess he didn't understand but would spend years attempting to comprehend. Liam looked at them, his son, his wife, no, not his wife, not anymore, and something inside him finally broke. I'm sorry, he said to Hope, Wyatt, and the young child, who looked precisely like him, but not like the guy who had signed the birth certificate. I'm so sorry. Wyatt laughed again, bitter and shattered. Yeah. Me too. The minister cleared his throat awkwardly. Perhaps we should all take a moment. No, Hope murmured, getting up and holding Thomas. She stared at Liam, then Wyatt, and finally at the sea of faces who had witnessed her world disintegrate in real time. There are no moments. No more chances. No more weddings. She walked down the aisle, past Brooke's reaching hands, Ridge's astonished silence, and Steffi's hardly hidden joy. The shredded veil trailed behind her, like a ghost. She hesitated at the doors for a little while to look back. You both lost me, she said quietly. More importantly, you lost him, she said before leaving. The church remained hushed for one pulse.
2.
Then Liam turned to Wyatt and hit him so hard that his brother fell like a sack of grain. The brawl that ensued was less civilized than typical Forrester Creations sample sales.